What's going on, guys? Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the brand new Nike Tiempo X Finale Indoors, a shoe that I think is easily one of the best value for money options if you're looking for an indoor soccer shoe with a good quality leather upper. The retail price on this guy is only $95, which is not exceptionally cheap, but it's definitely not nearly as expensive as the model above this, the Proximo 2, which retails for $80 more at $175. So we're gonna go over why I think this is such a good value, talk tech specs, performance characteristics, as well as how they fit and feel on feet. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around and watch the entire video. And if you're interested in a pair for yourself, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen, or you can click the first link down below. That'll take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $95 retail price. Before we get into the specifics of this particular shoe, I want to touch on value for money, because I put it in the title of this video, and I don't think everybody fully understands it. Value for money automatically implies that something is inexpensive. In the case of a soccer cleat, it costs $100 versus $300 like a top-end model would. But just because that shoe is inexpensive does not automatically make it good value for money. Good value for money means that the shoe is both inexpensive as well as a very good quality shoe with the performance characteristics and the fit to match. When you're talking about shoes at the lower price points, value is not always equal. Just because two shoes are 80 bucks doesn't mean that they are going to be exactly the same in terms of the quality you're getting, the quality of the fit, the quality of the performance characteristics. They could be on two completely different levels. So I think more than ever, if you are on a budget, it's super important to consider all of your options that meet your budget requirements, because like I said, they really do vary quite a bit in terms of the quality of the product that you're actually getting, even though they're the same price. So please just keep that in mind. When you're talking about value for money, it's both important that it's inexpensive as well as good, not just inexpensive. So obviously the Tiempo X Finale Indoor is the first takedown model in this indoor Tiempo line, just below this guy right here, the $175 Tiempo X Proximo 2. If you guys haven't seen my review on this, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen. But basically, it's an indoor version of the Tiempo Legend 7. When you hold the two side by side, they look quite similar. And what is interesting about these two shoes is while there's an $80 price difference, $175 for these, $95 for these, they feature the exact same midsole outsole construction. So in that regard, the quality and feel underfoot is pretty much identical between the two. The difference is going to be in terms of the overall quality of the upper, and it's definitely safe to say that the Proximo model is significantly nicer in terms of overall quality. So if you have the money to spend, this is arguably the best leather indoor soccer shoe on the market right now. But from an experience perspective, especially once broken in, there isn't going to be a gigantic difference between the two. You have kangaroo leather on the Proximo with the internal support cage, as well as technically all conditions control, and of course the Flyknit and Flywire cables running through the back of the shoe, whereas on the Finale, it's a calfskin leather with the internal support cage. You can see the incorporation of the suede is much more standard in terms of just being stitched on top of the leather upper versus kind of sitting flush with it on this Proximo, which I think is extremely nice in terms of how they did this. It doesn't have the Flyknit. It does have a cable system, not Flywire, but instead these nylon straps, which in my opinion are just as effective. And then there are some major differences in terms of the insole and the heel liners, but we'll get into that in just a second. So again, from a value for money perspective, these are both going to provide very similar experiences, but one is going to do so at a much lower price tag. So the upper on the Tiempo X Finale is kind of a hybrid of what you get from the Leggera 4 and the Legacy 3, which of course is available in the standard soccer cleat firm ground variation. So the upper is more or less taken from the Leggera 4 in terms of it being a calfskin leather material with that internal support cage. It's very good quality, all things considered. Obviously the Leggera 4 only retails for $75 versus $95 for these, but I think the extra cost comes from the fact that this does have what I would consider to be a top end and really top-notch outsole midsole construction. So that's probably where the extra cost comes into play, but there are some other modifications as well. In terms of the touch that this has on offer, it's not overly thin, it's not overly padded, and once broken in, even out of the box, it's pretty soft, but as you break them in, it gets even softer, as you would expect from a natural leather upper. It just has that nice, soft, kind of typical leather feel that you would expect from a nice quality leather soccer cleat. So to me, that's something that I always like about leather shoes, because while this isn't as good quality as what you would get from the kangaroo leather upper on the Proximo model, once it's broken in, no matter what kind of leather it is, no matter what the initial quality is from the start, it always softens up over time. So that's what's good from a value for money perspective with a lot of takedown models, especially if you have a natural leather upper, you always know that it's going to be soft. Whereas if you have a cheaper synthetic material, it's pretty much always going to feel plasticky no matter what you do. So that's definitely something to consider if you are on a tighter budget. However, the rest of the upper is pretty straightforward. You're gonna find a a suede wrap going around pretty much the entire forefoot and toe box area on top. This is pretty typical of a lot of indoor shoes. They also make this in a turf variation as well. That's there basically just for the sake of durability, that protective layer for the leather upper. You'll find that on a lot of leather indoor shoes. The laces, of course, run through the middle. You're gonna find that the tongue on this shoe is more along the lines of the more expensive Tiempo Legacy 3, which is not a bad thing at all. It's kind of like a mesh-based material with memory foam inserts running all the way through the middle. Very, very good quality. I quite like the tongue they incorporated on this particular shoe. It does have the nylon straps, which basically run from the lacing system into the base of the sole, kind of on this angle. You can see the little kind of texturing they have there. That's the angle that it flows at. And when you pull the laces tight, this really does an effective job of locking the midfoot and the heel inside of the shoe. So from a responsiveness perspective, that along with the internal support cage, these are much more responsive than I think you would expect from a more traditional leather soccer shoe in terms of how they fit and feel on your feet. Now the back part is obviously not Flyknit, it's just a synthetic based material, but honestly it's in a part of the foot that doesn't really matter all that much. It feels perfectly fine. You're not really gonna be able to feel a difference between this or the Flyknit on the higher end variation. It does have an internal plastic heel counter, a standard low cut, and this is where I do have some complaints in regards to the quality of the shoe. It just has a kind of padded mesh lining material, which again is typical of what you would find on the Legera 4 Tiempos, but I just wish they would have gone with something like a synthetic leather or even a synthetic suede, just because it just feels a little bit more premium. This isn't uncomfortable by any means, but it is something that is typically found on cheaper soccer shoes. The other thing to consider is that the insole is non-removable on this particular boot, which again is not really a bad thing, but I would have liked to have seen it removable at the $95 price point. I don't necessarily think that's so cheap to where that shouldn't have been an included feature. As far as the midsole and outsole is concerned, it is again the same as that top end model, which is really, really nice to see. You can see the Lunar Lawn branding right here, and this part on the outside in black is actually a firmer foam. The Lunar Lawn is actually this little kind of pinkish orange bit you see peeking out through the bottom. So what's happening is you have a structured foam, a harder foam on the outside, as well as on the base of the shoe, and then a Lunar Lawn foam that runs through the middle, mainly in the heel area. I believe there's a little targeted piece in the heel and a little targeted piece in the forefoot. So for the most part, you get really good underfoot cushioning, but it's also relatively low profile, and the flexibility is quite good as well. So no major complaints from me in regards to the midsole. I actually really, really like this particular setup. You're gonna find solid rubber for the entire outsole, a little bit of a lip going around the edge from the forefoot and toe box area, again, for the sake of durability. It is a non-marking rubber for those that are concerned about that because it is red in color. And of course, this is the indoor variation. It has this kind of almost weather mapped type traction pattern to it that actually works really, really nicely. It's relatively aggressive in terms of how it actually grips on an indoor court. As long as it's not overly dusty, the traction you're gonna get out of this is really nice. And for use in street soccer type environments, like concrete, asphalt, whatever you wanna call it, or whatever type of surface it might be, this actually holds up quite nicely and does provide decent traction as well. Plus, if you need a turf variation, they do make this in a turf model, I believe. So overall, really like the midsole and outsole. Again, it's exactly the same as what you'd find on the top end boot in the line. In terms of weight, in a size 9.5 US, these guys weigh in at 9.1 ounces, which is relatively light for this style of indoor shoe. And in comparison to the more expensive Proximo model, it's actually 0.2 ounces lighter, which is a very small amount of weight. You're not gonna be able to notice that on feet whatsoever, but for a leather indoor soccer shoe, considering the amount of underfoot cushioning you get and the quality of the leather upper in general, 9 ounces is definitely nothing to be mad about. All right, so as you can see, I swapped out the stock red laces for some white and black grid pattern SR4U replacement laces, which I think look really cool with this kind of red to black to white fade section they have happening here in the midfoot area. Anyways, if you are interested in a pair of SR4U replacement laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. There'll be a little pop-up on screen, as well as a link down below in the description if you're interested in a pair. On feet, the Tiempo X Finale feels really, really good. I know a lot of people complain about these lunar lawn cushioning systems and being too high off the ground with some of these Nike indoors, but these feel really connected, fairly low profile, but at the same time you get a decent amount of impact protection, which is important for me. It's something that I personally really like in a pair of indoors, but that's of course not for everybody. As far as the upper is concerned, the calfskin leather upper feels soft. The shoe in general is just very comfortable. There's not a whole lot to break in here, but of course, because they are leather, as you wear them in, the leather is going to soften up significantly even after just one wear, and over time they'll stretch and form to the shape of your foot, but at the same time they have a very locked in, secure, fairly responsive sensation that you wouldn't get from a typical leather soccer shoe without all these extra bits on them. So again, from a fit and quality standpoint, these are really, really nice. As far as width is concerned, they've got a decent amount of width to them, and again, because they are leather, they will stretch if they need to, depending on the shape of your feet. So even if you do have wide feet, I think these will fit most people without any issues at all. And as far as sizing is concerned, just like all the other current Tiempo models, they run about a half size small. So instead of wearing my usual size 9 US, I bumped it up to a 9.5, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you are coming from another pair of Tiempos, I would stick with the same sizing, but if you're coming from most other lines, going a half size up is probably the way to go. So in conclusion, I can strongly recommend Tiempo X Finale indoors. I think it's a really solid option if you're looking for something with a leather upper, a more modern type of responsiveness from a leather style of shoe, decent underfoot cushioning, and again, the overall package is a really good value. The retail price is $95, but you can get these with SR4U coupon codes, even when they get marked down a little bit, at $80 or even lower. The only other shoe that I would recommend if you were looking at this style of indoor is maybe the Adidas Copa Indoor, just because it's exactly the same $95 retail price, but you're getting a little bit more leather, and it is kangaroo leather as well. So I think it's without question a better quality leather shoe in terms of the upper, but the midsole and outsole I definitely don't think is as good in terms of overall underfoot cushioning, and that shoe's gonna weigh about 2 ounces more as well. So they're not gonna feel quite as low profile or as lightweight as what you're getting with this particular model. If you're asking my preference, just because I don't mind having a little bit of extra bulk, I actually do prefer the Copa Indoor just because I'm a big fan of the way that leather material feels. But again, if you want something a little bit more modern, a little bit more light, a little bit more responsive, then by all means, this Tiempo X Finale is an extremely good option for you. Anyways, guys, that is it for my review. As always, if you are interested in a pair for yourself, you can click the first link down below. That'll take you to the review page on my website, where you will find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes. You'll be able to pick these up below their normal $95 retail price. If you have any questions, as always, leave them down below in the comments, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.